Let's do it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. On today's show, we'll talk about how the U.S. economy is in a giant bubble that could burst at any moment. But I'll also talking about how the U.S. economy, the stock market as a whole, is fake and a Ponzi scheme to begin with. So even outside of just that bubble, you're dealing with a completely fake system. Anyway, more details on that in just a minute. We're also going to get into how the president of Syria and former Al Qaeda chief is at the White House today. Because, we really don't mind if you've lopped off a few heads as long as you're willing to do our bidding later. It's really not a problem. We people deserve a second chance, even when they've murdered countless innocent people. So we'll get into that. We're also going to talk about how Israel is in multiple different ways trying to manipulate the propaganda, the information that is coming out. But some of this is, I know you're like, well, they've been doing that since day one, but some of this is a new effort by Israel to gain control, to game the system so that AI models are no longer explaining to people that this is genocide and so much more. So we're going to get to that. I can't even list all of the important topics we're getting to. So please click thumbs up, click subscribe, throw in a couple of super chat bucks and leave a comment. Whatever you do helps the show. But let's start off with the fact, you may have seen this in the news just the other day. Tesla has voted to pay Elon Musk, $1 trillion, a trillion with a T, over 10 years if he reaches if Tesla reaches certain points of market cap as they go along. $1 trillion fucking dollars. Totally insane. But we're going to dig into a little deeper as to just how insane that is in just a minute. But yes, that was voted. That was approved by Tesla stockholders, which are mostly the rich, because guess who owns stock in this country? The rich. Thank you, Dan, for supporting the show. Goddamn right. Yes, Dan, because you are a member, you should have gotten my comedy specials and the ebooks and stuff. So please just email me, leecampmail@gmail.com, and I'll get those to you. Sorry about that. So let's, so we're going to get into how insane that is. But on top of that, on top of just Tesla, you've got an AI bubble that's going to burst. Now, some people like to kind of conflate this with the overhyping of AI, and there may be an overhyping in terms of how much money it's going to bring to certain industries, certain people, what have you. Yes, that could be overhyped. In terms of the way AI is changing, has already begun changing, and will continue to changing. Will continue to changing. That's how you know I'm not AI, because I say stupid shit like that. Will continue to change our society. I don't think that's being overhyped, and I have tried to stress just how crazy these times are going to become so quickly. So I don't think that's overhyped, but that can be kind of separate from whether the economics of AI is overhyped. And right now, OpenAI is technically worth, quote unquote, more than Goldman Sachs. But OpenAI is not making money so far. They're losing billions every year. They lost billions in 2024. They'll lose billions this year. They are on track to lose only $14 billion in 2026. This is ChatGPT and OpenAI. And this was on the heels of them almost going bankrupt earlier and experiencing a $6 billion investor payout or bailout at the end of 2024. But this just speaks to this AI bubble that is insane and is propping up the entirety of the U.S. economy. But when I say the U.S. economy is fake, it's far more than just the AI bubble that is fake. But even New York Times understands that this is a bubble. Here's a headline from them. The next economic bubble is here. OpenAI is worth more than Goldman Sachs. Here's what that means for the economy. Now, I did not read the whole article. I'm sure they get it wrong because that's what they do. That's what they're in charge of. They're in charge of getting things wrong. They are one of the most read getting things wrong outlets that's out there. So they should be quite proud of that. I mean, they should really. There's not a lot of the other people that get things as wrong as they do on such a large scale. So good for them. Good for them. But anyway, so here's a post from Metaverse. The entire U.S. economy right now is 7 companies sending $1 trillion back and forth to each other. And they show images and charts of what this is. This is OpenAI is one of the larger ones. You've got NVIDIA, that is the largest company in the world right now. NVIDIA now over $5 trillion market cap, which is they were the first to cross over $4 trillion market cap a few months ago. And then they've already gained $1 trillion. Can you begin to comprehend what $1 trillion is? $1 trillion. And, sorry, I haven't updated my numbers in the past couple of years, but this still holds true. If you make $40,000 a year after taxes, it would take you 25 million years to make $1 trillion. 25 million years. And that's what NVIDIA's market cap gained in 3 months. Now, NVIDIA is one of these AI companies or whatever connected to AI that actually is making money. They're making money because they're making the thing that is needed to create AI. The other AI companies are largely not making money. OpenAI loses money every year. NVIDIA is, as Ben Norton, and I'm going to quote him more in a moment, but as Ben Norton said, is like the people that sold the shovels to the gold miners. Most gold miners, even during the gold mining boom in the United States, even during the genocidal Sooners and the people that ran out west to find their fortune, most of them did not make money. Most of them lost their hats. Okay, most of them lost everything trying to find gold. But you know who did reliably make crazy money? The people selling the shovels and the pans, probably the landlords or the places they needed to live to do that. If they were in an area with landlords and not just out in a field somewhere living in a tent. Those are the ones that make money. The guys selling the shovels. NVIDIA is selling the shovels. They sell the chips that allow these companies to be able to build up AI. Anyway, this chart is showing how each of these companies, xAI, Intel, AMD, are just sending money back and forth to each other. It says, a few weeks ago, Bloomberg wrote an article entitled OpenAI, NVIDIA Fuel $1 trillion AI Market with Web of Circular Deals. According to the article, never before has so much money been spent so rapidly on a technology that for all its potential remains largely unproven as an avenue for profit making. Now, it will make a lot of profit. This is not like, MySpace or something. It's not going to go the way of MySpace where they're like, it looked like everybody was going to hang out there and now they're not. No, AI is going to change a lot of the way our society works. Could do that in a good way. Most of the time, it seems like it's going to do that in a bad way. We'll get to maybe a little bit more on that in a few minutes. But it is going to have and continues to have and is already having a powerful impact in so many things in our lives. Now, whether that equals money for the companies that are not just building the shovels, that's yet to be told in many ways. And let's just tear apart the idea that Tesla could be worth so much money it can pay Elon Musk $1 trillion over the next 10 years. Here's Ben Norton. He wrote, the U.S. economy is not real. It's just a big billionaire Ponzi scheme. 75% of Tesla shareholders approved a $1 trillion pay package. Tesla made, drumroll please, $7.13 billion in net income in 2024. $7.3 billion. They're going to pay Elon Musk $1 trillion. That math doesn't seem to add up, does it? It's because the stock market is a fairy tale. It is not actually based on things that are actually sold. It's based on the idea of how much you think something might be worth. How much you think Tesla stock is worth? To stock in the way it works now in our stock market is the dictionary definition of a Ponzi scheme. Ben Norton concludes, this is so stupid it defies basic math and reality itself. So Tesla shareholders report of $1 trillion. And here's an income statement from Tesla. Net profit was $7.2 billion in 2024. And this last chart is total revenues versus net income for Tesla. And you'll notice the total revenue is largely continues to go up. It probably sank this year because Elon Musk attached himself so clearly to fascism. And a lot of people seem to not like that so much. And so they stopped buying Teslas as much. But anyway, the total revenues are rather high. Almost, I assume this is in billions. Oh, yeah, in billions. Almost $100 billion total revenue. Problem is net income at the end of that is, they don't have numbers on this, but it looks like about, in 2023, it was probably about 17 billion net income. And then last year, I just said that, 7 billion net income. So they're, relative to the amount of money they're bringing in, they're barely profitable. And then on top of that, you have the fact that a lot of people hate Tesla now because Elon Musk has shown who he really is, it seems. But outside of that, let's just get out of how insane Tesla is. Tesla, I assume still, but at one time, but I think still is worth more than the following 4 car makers combined, like Ford and Chevy. I don't know, maybe they own each other. I can't remember. They're all jacking each other up. I can't remember who's in whose mouth. You ever been there? You're at a party, you're like, I don't know who's in my mouth right now. That's what the big car companies are. But anyway, they're worth more. Tesla's, or was worth, and probably close to it now, worth more than the following 4 car makers combined, including Toyota, which makes like 10 times as many cars, or maybe it's more than that, than Tesla does. Toyota actually produces things. Tesla far less. Thank you, Jolly Lollipop, for throwing $10 into the little tip jar here. Jolly Bob would like to complain that people are literally saying the word literally every time they literally speak, and it literally can't watch a video. Are you accusing me of that? I would like to say that I have tried, I'm going to say 95% of the time across the span of my life, to make sure when I say literally, I literally mean literally. I have worked very hard on that. I sit at home, remind myself. Now, there might be some slip-ups here and there, but I'm a big fan of literally meaning like literally, like actually literally, like totally literally. I'm a big fan of that. Never been into the like, dude, did you see that fight? He literally ripped his face off. No, he literally fucking didn't, because that would be a different kind of fight. Dude, I made so much money. I literally made more money than Elon Musk. No, you didn't. No, you didn't, because Elon Musk is a lunatic who is nearly a trillionaire. Anyway, but thank you, Jolly Pop, for throwing a couple bucks. And I've been doing this the last couple live streams, and I've enjoyed it. It's been helping the show be able to sustain despite all the suppression and censorship and all this shit. Censorship. There we go. All the censorship I've been dealing with. So if we get to $100 of super chats there on either here or Rumble, I will throw in an extra 15 minutes. We'll do an extra quarter of an hour. And we're already at $20. So maybe we'll get there. But let's keep going here, though. So outside of Tesla and the insanity of Tesla, outside of the AI bubble and the insanity of that, we need to remember, and I've done segments on this before, but like, people don't like it. They don't like to think that this is how the system works. But the stock market as it stands now is a dictionary definition of a Ponzi scheme. It is the SEC's definition of a Ponzi scheme. The SEC, right, supposed to regulate Wall Street. Fucking don't do it. But they, for a while there, they were literally thinking, see, there, I used it right. They were literally thinking of putting Bernie Madoff in as the head of the SEC. This was prior to when everything came out, but they had inklings. Oh, they had inklings. But anyway, dictionary definition of a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme is where the things at the top don't actually like make that amount of money. They just take the money from the new people throwing money in and they then give it to the rich at the top. And that is how our stock market works. It is not directly correlated to how much a company makes or builds or puts out or even the profit they make, right? OpenAI is quote unquote worth more than Goldman Sachs. OpenAI is losing billions of dollars and will lose billions of dollars next year and is on slate to lose billions of dollars in 2026. In fact, OpenAI, both Sam Altman and another one of their higher ups, just in the past few weeks have mentioned multiple times that AI and OpenAI is so important that the government will have to step in and make sure that it can't go bankrupt. Basically, they were publicly calling, although using slightly different words, that they're too big to fail because they see the writing on the wall. They know that this bubble could burst, that the U.S. is in right now, and OpenAI would be completely bust. Who knows what would happen with it? And so they're kind of publicly saying, hey, Donald Trump, if we want to compete with China, when this all goes belly up, you're going to have to save us because the big companies love fucking socialism. Oh, they love socialism when it's needed to save their companies, when it's needed to save the massive banks that would have gone belly up in 2008. You know, when it's saving all of these too big to fail parasite institutions. But anyway, to back what I was saying, dictionary definition of a Ponzi scheme most of these companies don't make anything to the level of what they're so-called worth on the stock exchange. And you'd say that the only thing that you could, that people would try to point to it not being the dictionary definition of a Ponzi scheme is, well, a Ponzi scheme requires lying. It requires fraud. It requires the people at the top to not explain the truth of the situation. I don't think these companies are explaining the truth. I don't think. You think Tesla gets on their earnings calls and goes, hey, guys, this is crazy. We don't make anywhere near the amount of money that stock market says we're worth. It's fucking nuts. No, of course not. They're lying. They're lying about how well they're going to do. Even when things are going worse, like when Elon Musk was cratering their stock, they got on phone calls and said, yeah, we're doing fine and we're going to come back and all. They lied their asses off. So there is no difference from a Ponzi scheme. The other thing that we need to point out is a lot of people think that with the stock market that you invest in a company and they then give you a percentage of the money they make. But that's called dividends, and it's not done nearly as much as it used to be. It's done occasionally in small ways. But for the most part, that's not how people, quote unquote, make money on the stock market. Instead, you put in your money to the company. They give you a little thing called stock that is worthless. It is a piece of paper that says something on it. But if you were to try to turn that in for money, it's not worth anything. The only way you make money from it is by convincing someone else that that's what that piece of paper is worth. It's meaningless unless you convince someone else, which is how a Ponzi scheme works. So anyway, my whole point is like, yes, we're in a giant bubble. Yes, it could go burst at any moment. This bubble, by the way, if you look at the numbers, is far bigger than the dot-com bubble that, collapsed a lot of our economy back in 99 and into 2000. Far bigger. And yet we're just skating along, acting like it makes sense. We're also in another kind of bubble where our country owes, quote unquote, $37 trillion. And yet we just, it's fine. It's fine. Well, what's $37 trillion between a couple of folks? Well, not a big deal. So, and why does the U.S. dollar continue to have any worth when a country owes $37 trillion? How does that fucking work? Well, it's still premised on the petrodollar. The U.S. needs that petroleum to keep flowing in U.S. dollars, or that whole thing is done. And they don't want you to think about that much. But anyway, let's see. Was that all the points I wanted to make? I think so. About what a crazy bubble we're in right now. It's unhinged. And the one last point is, this is how capitalism works, right? Capitalism is, how big can we inflate this bubble? How big can we make the rich richer? And then it'll burst at some point. And when it bursts, guess who's going to come to the rescue? The government is going to rescue the too big to fail. Who gets completely screwed or fucked? It's the small time people. It's the people that were small time investors or something like that. But most of what the ripple effects, right? Companies go bust and people are fired. Those are the ripple effects. But the actual stock market, people with the actual stock in the money in the stock market, it's almost entirely the wealthy. God, I'm trying to remember the numbers. The 1%, own, I think it's like 50% or something of all stock. Yes, I got it right. 50% of all stock, but the top 10% own an additional 38%. So if you add those two together, the top 10% of the wealthiest Americans own 88% of the stock market. Then the bottom 50% of Americans own 1% of the stock market. The stock market is the rich getting richer. But of course, when that bubble bursts, you have all these ripple effects where people that weren't invested in the stock market or were barely invested, they lose their jobs. They can't afford groceries. Their job, says we're in whatever, we need to pay you less. We're not doing overtime. Whatever it is, all these ripple effects, people get screwed. We saw it in 2008. We saw it in 1999. We saw it in 2020. And we're going to see it again because on average, capitalism has these massive bust cycles every 4 to 7 years. And this is so-called the best economic system they could come up with, one that just destroys everyone's lives every 4 to 7 years, except for the rich. That totally sounds like the best we could come up with. That sounds awesome. Okay, I want to move on to how we have a mass murderer in the White House today. And I'm not even talking about Trump. Set myself up for jokes. Sometimes I don't even mean to. I just fall ass backwards into them. But let's see. What do we got? We got 25, 35. We're already at $40. If we get to 100, I will do an extra 15 minutes here on Dangerous Ideas. Thank you so much for supporting the show. I have a new Substack column as well that I will be talking about in a bit. But I thought we'd start with a fun little video of Syria's al-Shara. Either way, with U.S. I think it might be at the White House, but because didn't Obama put in a basketball court? Anyway, this is literally an ex-Al-Qaeda chief playing basketball with the U.S. armed forces. I want to see his shot again because I also would like to point out that this jihadist, his basketball game, yeah. Even though it went in, that's a garbage shot. I just want everyone to know. If you don't play basketball, that was a garbage shot, okay? It might have gone in, because they probably filmed until he made one. But I'm just saying it was like borderline two hands. That guy's no idea what he's doing, okay, on the basketball court. He has no right to be out there. So, if there's one thing we should respect in this fucking country, don't pretend that the Al-Qaeda executioners that we now respect and love are good basketball players. Don't do it. Don't do it, okay? That's all I ask. I feel like that's not much. Thank you, Depende, maybe? Depende? Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you, Wermani. Thank you, UAP. Implications. Really appreciate it. We're now at $50, so we're halfway there. Okay, so ex-jihadist and current Syrian president that the U.S. installed in Syria by destroying their entire country, killing like 1 million people. Uh, he's at the White House for some landmark talks. Syria's president Ahmed al-Shara is to meet U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House on Monday for unprecedented talks, just days after Washington removed him from a terrorism blacklist. It's always good when you have someone over the White House. Hey, just as a nice little visitor gift. Take them off the terrorism watch list. Just a little thing. Shara, whose rebel forces ousted longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad late last year with the help of Israel and the help of the United States, will be the first Syrian leader to visit the White House since the country's independence in 1946. Formerly affiliated with al-Qaeda, Shara's group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, was itself only delisted as a terrorist group in July. Basically, he was one of the heads of al-Nusra, which is an al-Qaeda offshoot. It's very, very similar policies to al-Qaeda. Execute those who aren't with us, that kind of thing. Execute those who are the wrong religion. But yes, we just took him off the terrorist watch list just the other day. And now he's our best buddy, because you have to understand that in our collapsing empire, there are no morals. There is no moral line. There is no moral ground. It is all empty, vapid. It is money and nothing else. There is nothing that has meaning. Not human lives, not humanity, not love, not culture, none of it except money. And so if you stare at the situation of, let's say, Syria, and you only put it through the lens of money, you throw out the lens of how will the humanity of Syria do? How will the culture of Syria do? How will the people? How will they do? How will the children of Syria do? You throw all that out and you just stare at it through the lens of money. You go, okay, well, it doesn't matter who leads Syria as long as they're doing what we want. And Bashar al-Assad is not doing what we want. And the most terrifying thing for the United States is a country that can pump oil outside of the U.S. dollar. And Syria could do that. And Syria dropped the U.S. dollar. And the first thing that way back in the early 2000s, or maybe the year 2000. And the first thing that the U.S. did, even before they got rid of Assad, was take over the oil fields. Most of the oil fields were in the 30% of Syria that the U.S., quote unquote, owned, took over. So that was step one. And you're also cutting off a revenue stream, right? So you make it so that oil can't be pumped outside the U.S. dollar. You also make sure that Syria can't get money from that oil. So therefore, the people can more effectively starve, because that's part of the goal as well in our dirty war on Syria, was make the people starve. And we succeeded. 94% of Syrians were, and probably still are, below the poverty line. 94%. Sure, there's people and children starving or dying of lack of medication all the time. We basically never know their names. We don't always know the percentage of the numbers, but it's in the hundreds of thousands. And we go, yes, that's working perfectly. Because again, there is no morality. There is no lens to look at the situation other than money and power. But money is power. They're kind of two words that mean something similar. The United States has removed Ahmed al-Shara from the terrorist lists. This is from Al Jazeera. The U.S. Department of Treasury removed him, a former fighter linked to al-Qaeda, from the specially designated global terrorist list on Friday. The United Nations Security Council also removed al-Shara from a largely symbolic sanctions list on Thursday. So the UN is in love with this mass murder as well. This is so lovely. Isn't it lovely to see everyone come together like this? Washington and the UN also removed Anas Hassan Khattab, a former fighter linked to al-Qaeda, but now serving as Syria's interior minister. So it's not just an al-Qaeda guy in the presidential spot. It's also the guys around him are also al-Qaeda. You got to bring your friends with you. I respect that. That's called loyalty. I don't care if they're all Al Qaeda. Come on, join us. Join us in the presidential palace in Syria. By the way, in the Syria, which is still starving in many ways, still hungry, still incredibly impoverished, thanks to U.S. sanctions on them, U.S. economic war on them. You'll notice in the video I showed, he's been eating well. Yeah, al-Shura, he's been eating quite well. It looks like. You know, it is once you take off your Al Qaeda uniform and you put on your little business suit and you say, hey, I'm part of the Western Empire. It's funny. All the food is just far more easy to get. It's far more affordable. You're not living in a cave, eating out of a tin can. It's just so nice. So nice. I'm so proud of that al-Shura guy. He really has achieved a lot. So here is a video of retired U.S. diplomat Robert Ford admitting and talking about how they brought in al-Shura from being jihadists, from, cutting people's heads off because they were the wrong religion or what have you, or wouldn't support his cause. And how the MI6 and the U.S. brought him in and started working with him. So here is former U.S. diplomat Robert Ford talking about that. And he's talking about it in a positive way. He's saying, isn't this great what we did?
Starting in 2023, a British non-government organization, which specializes in conflict resolution, invited me to help them bring this guy out of the terrorist world and into regular politics. And at first, I have to tell you, I was very leery of going. I sort of had images of me in an orange jumpsuit with a knife to my throat. But after talking to several people who had gone in, and one of whom had met him, I decided to take the chance.
I'll keep playing in a second, but you'll notice by him admitting that he was afraid they might chop his head off, he's also admitting that these are guys that chop people's heads off. So he's admitting what they are. He's just saying it might be safe for him to have gone at that time, but he's not saying it's safe to be around these guys and not have your head chopped off. Anyway.
And so the first time I met him, this guy's name is nom de guerre, was Abdulkader Jolani, but his actual name is Ahmed Shara, which he only revealed to the world after he captured Damascus in the Blitzkrieg of December 2024, about 5 months ago. First time I met him, I sat down next to him, and I'm literally as close as I am to Roy, and I said, this is all in Arabic, I said, never in a million years could I imagine that I would be sitting next to you. Long beard, thin fatigues. And he looked at me, he speaks very softly, and he said, Walla ana, me neither. And we went on and actually had a pretty civil conversation. I share this because he said something which really piqued my interest. He never apologized for the terrorist attacks in Iraq or in Syria, although there were many fewer in Syria. Never apologized. But he also said,
just remember that part, never apologize. Not like this is a changed man. It's not like he's done being a bloodthirsty executioner. He just realized there were more effective ways to take over Syria.
Now I am governing an opposition-held area of northwest Syria, and I am learning that the tactics and the principles that I was following in Iraq do not apply when you actually have to govern 4 million people. And they had 2 million residents of that area of Syria, and then another 2 million refugees who had come there from other parts of Syria. So they had a population of 4 million. He said, I am learning that to govern, you have to make compromises. I was very struck by that.
So he didn't apologize. He just realized that if he took off his fatigues and did what the United States wants, then he can take over Syria, which they helped him do. And here's this guy admitting, that these are bloodthirsty executioner jihadists, and it's useful for our empire. Because again, the only lens through for every decision is money and power. That is it. And so he's now the head of Syria, now the president of Syria. they are ethnically cleansing in Syria, and even CNN has done a little reporting on that. This is CNN. Ethnic cleansings. Ethnic cleansing, they're chanting in the video that shows Syrian government-aligned forces reveling in massacre of minorities in a coastal town. And then they go on to tell the story of just one family who the father of the family said, "Don't worry." As they came to town, these are al-Sarraj's forces, government forces. As they came to town, the father told the family, "Don't worry, they're not after us. They're only after people that supported Bashar al-Assad." And then they ultimately killed the father and the brother. So that wasn't true. They were just out for killing anyone that wasn't of the same, tribe, as they say, the same group, the in-group, and that's called ethnic cleansing. And we're inviting this guy to the White House to be very excited that we now have such an awesome president of Syria. And, don't be fooled that we brought down Syria because Assad was a bad guy. Even if Assad was a bad guy, it has nothing to, we don't give a shit as to whether you're a bad guy, a good guy, executing people, ethnically cleansing. I mean, fuck, look at Israel. We don't give a shit if you're doing all that as long as it serves us for money and power. There is no moral code. There is no moral lens. It is just money and power. And we've seen that through Syria. And I and many almost exclusively independent media people were saying this for years, that this is why the U.S. wanted to coup Syria. This is why the U.S. wanted to collapse Syria. This is why we had economic war on Syria. This is why the U.S. took over the oil fields in Syria. This is why we manufactured fake chemical weapons attacks in Syria. And yes, they were fake. If you need details on that, then look up Ian Henderson and the 4 OPCW whistleblowers that have told the truth on what happened in Syria. One more note, that the al-Sarraj, who's at the White House right now, also good friend with Israel and was fine with Israel blowing up all of Syria's military weaponry. Now, this is after Assad left. So it's not like they were still fighting Assad and Israel helped them to take away Assad's weaponry. I mean, that happened as well. But I'm saying this article here from Reuters is talking about Israel says its airstrikes destroyed most of Syria's strategic weapon stockpiles. This is after Assad was gone. And why was Israel doing this after Assad was gone? Because, yeah, al-Sarraj is their guy. However, they don't know who's going to come into power. They don't know whether al-Sarraj will change his mind and start acting differently. So they figured, well, we'll just blow up Syria's military weaponry and then we don't have to worry about it because they'll be defenseless and we can do whatever we want. And guess what? New prez of Syria didn't have a problem with it. Totally fine. Yeah, blow up all of our military weaponry. Now, it's not like I want Mr. Al-Qaeda to have military weaponry, so it's not like I care either way. It's just, does it sound like he's a little bit in bed with U.S., Western, and Israeli aims? If he's fine with Israel blowing up all of their military weaponry? Insane. Okay, we're going to kind of shift now, although we're shifting over to more updates on Israel and Gaza and genocide. But got a lot more for you. And if we get to $100, I will do an extra quarter of an hour for you. We're at $45, I believe. And thank you guys so much, those of you who have supported the show. But okay, let's keep it going. Israel is basically trying to game AI to get it to stop saying Israel is committing genocide. So I should actually preface this by saying, and this is one of the things that I thought would be a positive of AI, if we could maintain it, if it could continue, is that if you go to ChatGPT right now and you type in, at least last I checked, and you type in, hey, ChatGPT, by the dictionary definition, is Israel committing genocide? It will say, when I last typed it in 2 days ago, it said, short answer, yes. Because AI, with some exceptions like Elon Musk's Grok, AI is not going off of some dictate of how to answer. Instead, it is looking at billions of words. It is looking at the breadth of human knowledge, or a lot of it that has been put online. Now, Elon Musk was upset that Grok, his AI on Twitter, was saying, I think specifically, that there wasn't a white genocide, a genocide against white people going on in Africa and South Africa and stuff. He was upset that it was saying that no, there's no genocide. And so he literally went in and somehow altered the functionality of it, so that I think it now says there's a white genocide in Africa. That aside, though, OpenAI for the moment, this might change, is largely not like that. And Israel hates this, right? Israel hates that people are largely beginning to trust AI models for answers to just about everything. And Israel hates that you can go to the thing you think is always right and ask it if Israel's committing genocide, and it'll say yes. So they have a plan. They're spending over $500 million shekels, which is about $145 million, to try and turn ChatGPT into a misinformation tool. And this is not as easy as it might sound. You might think, well, you spend $100 million, you can get OpenAI to say what it was. But they would have to change. They'd either have to purchase OpenAI, which would take $1 trillion or something, or they have to change. They have to pump out so much misleading garbage that the AI models start to think, well, maybe it's not a genocide. I don't even know whether this will ultimately be successful, but this is their aim. And let me read a little of this. Israel's foreign ministry has launched one of its most ambitious public diplomacy campaigns. And by the way, I should also throw in here that this is because a large percentage of people now know Israel's committing genocide. A large percentage of people in America, especially people under 40, realize this is a genocide. They know the truth, and Israel's pulling out all the stops to try and turn this around and corrupt people's minds, gaslight everybody. Israel's foreign ministry has launched one of its most ambitious public diplomacy campaigns in the U.S. since the war in Gaza began, according to newly filed documents at the Department of Justice. The documents submitted under the Foreign Agents Registration Act reveal that Israel has contracted the U.S.-based firm Clock Tower as part of a wide-ranging effort to influence online discourse, including generative AI systems such as ChatGPT. At least 80% of the content produced to be tailored to Gen Z audiences across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and podcasts. The exposure target set in the contract is unusually high for social media, 50 million monthly impressions. The project comes now. This is why they're pulling out the stops. This is why Israel's freaking out. The project comes amid declining support for Israel among young Americans. A Gallup poll published in July found that only 9% of Americans aged 18 to 34 support Israel's military operations in Gaza. Only 9% of young Americans support the genocide. What the fuck, guys? It's just a little genocide. What's wrong with you? Come on, get in line. Come on. Grab a hot cup of genocider and come hang out with us. Another survey commissioned by Israel's foreign ministry, while somewhat more favorable, found that 47% of Americans believe Israel is committing genocide, which when you got to remember, compared to the positive view of Israel just 5 years ago or 3 years ago, this is a catastrophic shift. It is a massive shift. And Israel's kind of freaking out because for some odd reason, again, I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe someone can explain to me. People are not loving the genocide. They're like, hey, about the genocide. So look, I know it's your thing. I know it's your look. It's like what you're really into. And look, you wear it well. You wear it as well as it can be worn. But I'm just saying there's a shift in the times, changing times, and kids are always into new stuff. And you might want to consider not genocide. You might just something else. Just try it out. Just see how it feels. Just take a break. Take a break. But yes, the numbers are crazy. Like 9% support the genocide. So will $145 million have the kind of impact they're looking for, where the large language models, the AI models, begin to shift their view of what exactly is going on in Gaza? Tough to say. But that's not the only way Israel is working very hard to gaslight us, to manipulate us. This is from Project Censored. Project Censored every year puts out an awesome book called the 25 Most Censored Stories of the Year. I have many of the years I've done full episodes on their 25 Most Censored Stories. But anyway, here is one they posted. Number 4 of the past year, 4th most censored story. At the direction of the Israeli government, Meta, meaning Facebook, Instagram, launched the largest coordinated censorship campaign in modern history. Lucky for me, I was shadow banned starting in 2016, so I didn't have to worry. I was like, you guys are getting censored, are you? That's funny. That's funny. No, seriously though, it's kind of horrific, the amount of censorship that Meta has done in just a cave to Israel. Meta undertook a sweeping crackdown of Facebook and Instagram posts at Israel's request. Meta has acted on 94% of the Israeli government's request to take down posts on Facebook and Instagram that are critical of Israel or even vaguely supportive of Palestinians. 94% of posts that are criticizing the genocide, basically, have been taken down. Isn't it amazing that you have such a large protest movement across the United States, the college campus protest movement that they had to stop with police force, despite the fact that they have tried so hard to censor this shit, to censor shit? Despite the fact that I, for example, banned from TikTok within the first 2 months of the genocide, no reason, no right to appeal. I'm shadow banned at Facebook. Like, despite all that, word has still gotten out that this is a fucking genocide and continues to be. Dropside News characterized Meta's response to the Israeli government's takedown request campaign, which resulted in an estimated 38 million posts being removed, banned, or suppressed, as the largest mass censorship operation in modern history. I mean, it really is. I don't know that you could come up with anything where millions of posts were removed on just about anything. So that is a phenomenal, massive censorship level. Okay, folks, only 10 minutes left. We're at $55, so I think we're not going to make it. I'm going to have to bid you farewell, and that's going to be a sad time, all right? We're all going to shed a tear. I know it. But let's keep going. Losing the Republican base, Israel pours millions into targeting evangelicals and churchgoers. Evangelicals and churchgoers. Now, I think you should remember, even before the genocide began, that U.S. Zionist evangelicals were some of the biggest supporters of Israel, some of the biggest donors to Israel. Some of them don't know why. They just know their church tells them to support Israel. Some of them know why. The deeper reason is that evangelicals believe all the Jews need to be in Israel in order to burn in hell. So it's just such a loving and cuddly reason that they're supporting Israel. But anyway, this is a new campaign. The Israeli government has signed contracts worth millions of dollars in recent months to rehabilitate Israel's standing in American public opinion, both online and offline. Amid a sharp drop in support from the conservative right, Israel has hired firms to conduct not just Hasbara public diplomacy campaigns, Hasbara is their word for propaganda, but also campaigns targeting millions of Christian churchgoers, bot networks to amplify pro-Israel messages online, and efforts to influence AI services like ChatGPT. But yeah, this article goes on about how much they are trying to manipulate evangelicals. They view that as a key base that they can re-up support among, which says a lot for evangelicals as well as Israel. Israel we know is genocide. Over 80% of Israelis support the completion of ethnic cleansing in Gaza. They say all Palestinians should leave Gaza, which is completion of ethnic cleansing. So we already know about Israel, but it says a lot for evangelicals that they're like, oh, well, you just, if they tell us it's good to support a genocide, then why not? Why would we not? All right, so it's a story I want to tell you about, but it's also my latest Substack column, free to read over there, totally free, reallycamp.substack.com. But it's about how a new UN report is showing that 63 nations support Israel's genocide. Israel are complicit. Not like this isn't a poll of people. This is 63 nations are complicit in the genocide, are working with Israel to give Israel the ability to commit genocide. So in this latest Substack article, I go through some of the key points from Francesca Albanese's new report titled Gaza Genocide, a Collective Crime. And, I point out that in order to murder, the number of people that Israel has murdered varies between 69,000, according to what your media will tell you regularly, and 500,000, which is extrapolating from the Lancet Medical Journal numbers. So somewhere between 69,000 and 500,000 Gazans have been murdered. 70,000 tons of explosives have been dropped. The equivalent of 6 Hiroshima nuclear bombs have been dropped on Gaza. And Francesca Albanese's new report details how countries are involved, how all these 63 countries are involved in different aspects of this. Some are very obvious. Some you and I know about very easily, such as the United States has done everything it can, funneling billions, sending weapons, etc. UK is sending weapons, is vetoing things. The UN is flying surveillance flights over Gaza and feeding that information to Israel. So some of them are quite obvious. Some of them, you don't even know that these countries are involved in some aspect of helping Israel commit this genocide. One example from the report, the F-35 stealth strike fighter program, key to the Israeli military assault on Gaza, involves 19 states. Australia, Belgium, Canada, Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, Germany, Greece, Italy, Japan, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, South Korea, Romania, Singapore, Switzerland, the UK, and the US. That's all just to create the fighter jets to commit the genocide. So she goes through that. She also goes through some ways that these countries, if they wanted to, could work to stop Israel from committing genocide. So anyway, check out that article, free to read again at reallycamp.substack.com. I'd love for you guys to support my Substack as well, because it is growing. It's like around 22nd of the Substacks, number 22 of Substack's rising world politics writers. So I hope you'll head over there and click the subscribe button. You can subscribe for free. You could also become a paid member. But yeah, head over there and do that if you get a second, and share that article. Okay, so we're in the last 5 minutes here. If anybody wants to get us to $100, and we will do an extra 15 minutes. But in the meantime, let's keep going. I'm sure you are wondering how well it's going with Skydance, the largest private funder of the IDF, Larry Ellison, and his son, I believe his name is Dipshit. Dipshit Ellison. How he and his son running Skydance is going, because Skydance bought Paramount. They own CBS, right? Is it having any impacts on CBS, or or anything, or Paramount, or what kind of movies Paramount's made, who they're working with, whether Larry and beloved son dipshit are having an impact. And it turns out, it's so shocking, it is having an impact. Paramount has been blacklisting Hollywood figures critical of the Gaza genocide. Paramount Studios, led by new CEO dipshit Ellison, has created an internal blacklist targeting Hollywood figures it considers, quote, anti-Semitic. That's right. If you stand up against genocide, you're anti-Semitic. I've always said that. And I feel the same about any genocide. So if you were opposed to the Holocaust, anti-Semitic, right? Makes sense, doesn't it? The move follows a broader campaign by the studio to distance itself from growing industry criticism of Israel's genocide in Gaza. Dipshit Ellison, son of, his name was David. He changed it recently. I don't know. I think it had something to do with a divorce. He was afraid he was going to be sued or something. So changed it to Dipshit. Dipshit Ellison, son of Oracle billionaire Shitstain Ellison. It used to be Larry. Recently changed as well. Assumed control of the Hollywood studio in October following an $8 billion merger with Skydance. Variety reports that Paramount's new leadership under the younger Shitstain Ellison has taken a hardline stance in defense of Israel, with sources claiming the studio now refuses to work with artists it deems hostile to Israeli interests. The company has also dismissed several senior staff members seen as critical of Israel, including CBS former correspondent Deborah Pata, who covered Israel's genocide in Gaza extensively. Bari Weiss, the fellow Shitstain herself, founder of the far-right outlet The Free Press. It's not an outlet, it's a Substack that Larry Ellison bought for $250 million? I'd love to sell my Substack for $250 million. Instead, I'm hoping people sign up for $8 a month, and that one day I can afford my dental insurance. And an ardent Zionist, Bari Weiss, was appointed editor-in-chief of CBS News shortly after Ellison's takeover. So yeah, there's already a purge going on. They're saying they're not going to work with any of the people that signed the open letter. There were several Hollywood actors, including Mark Ruffalo and a bunch of others, Tilda Swinton, Javier Bardem, saying they would not work with companies that were Israeli or connected to Israel. And Paramount's now saying, which Paramount Skydance, one of the biggest studios left in Hollywood, right? Hollywood's had a bunch of mergers, so there's I think -2 studios left in Hollywood, and so they're one of the bigger ones, and they are saying they will not work with anyone who signed the letter saying that genocide's wrong. God, who would have thought that would happen, huh? I thought when the Shitstains bought Paramount that it wasn't going to have any impact whatsoever. I did. James Square in the comment section is asking if I'm Jewish. He says, "Ain't you Jewish though?" Yes, I am Jewish. What's the problem? Confused as to what that has to do with anything. One can be Jewish and against genocide. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that funny how that works? Yes, atheist by choice, Jewish by birth, but still culturally Jewish. Still, yeah, I'll light a Hanukkah candle with the best of them, man. I can still, I used to speak Hebrew. I don't remember any of it. I used to know Hebrew. I can still with the best of them. I got second place in the 1400s in state for I did. Still quite good at it. Don't remember any Hebrew though. So anyway, let's see. Should we wrap up there? I'm sorry we didn't get to the 100, but maybe next episode, which will be Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And unfortunately, there is no unredacted, no new unredacted this coming Thursday. Sometimes schedules get in the way, et cetera, et cetera. But as you see, I've been putting up new columns over on Substack, plenty of content. I'm still flogging you. I'm flogging you. I'm flogging you with content. I'm still flooding you with content. Let's see. Stories I didn't get to. Miss Rachel has publicly said she's unsubscribing from the New York Times for being pro-genocide, dehumanizing coverage of Palestinians in Palestine. Go, Miss Rachel. She always fucking rocks. Good job for standing up. And I just want to see if there's something I should leave you with. Yeah, I'll leave you with this. Rania Khalek is posting about how Israel is still at war with Lebanon. We don't talk about it anymore. We pretend it's not happening, but Israel is still at war with Lebanon. Hezbollah has not fired a shot at Israel since they signed the so-called ceasefire. Israel, meanwhile, has never stopped firing on Lebanon. Israel violates the ceasefire every day. This is being greenlit by the Trump administration. No one seems to care. And here's from Dropsite News. Breaking, Israel launches new wave of strikes across southern Lebanon. So basically, Israel continues to bomb Lebanon while they're in a so-called ceasefire. And yet, no, it's not talked about. Hezbollah sticks with the ceasefire despite Israel violating it every day. And, you know, just Israel's so genocidal that you can't keep track of it all. You're like, oh, they only bombed them 5 times today during a ceasefire. Well, that's nothing. That's not even a thing. Ain't no thing. One last point I should make is Rad Indie Media is back and kind of better than ever. In certain ways, better than ever. RadIndieMedia.com. It doesn't have all the snazzy photos anymore for right now, but it does have far more articles than it used to. So I think you'll actually be getting a better snapshot of Rad Indie Media, Rad Independent Media per day than you were with the old version. So go over to radindiemedia.com, free to use. There is no paywall, nothing. And it basically just shows you the day's awesome media stories, like from awesome outlets. Not good news, but from awesome outlets. And, you know, Truth Out, Consortium News, Electronic Intifada, Kaylin Johnstone, Sheer Post, Counterpunch. And you can just scroll through that and kind of have a no-nonsense feed of awesome articles. And then if you click on the left side, if you click on the watch, you can you'll see all of these options to watch things, such as my videos, Breakthrough News. There's a photo of Rania. We just mentioned her. And a bunch of others, Ring of Fire, Gray Zone. So check it out. We're still working on it, but I think it's a great place to kind of get your news rather than going to New York Times. Go to radindiemedia.com. All right. I will see you Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Keep fighting.
Well, brother, I salute you, though, man. You're one of the few that bring together this tremendous artistic talent and still be in such deep solidarity with oppressed people.
It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you, Lee, you have one of the funniest shows on television, bar none.
It's an enormous pleasure to be here. While I was waiting, I was leafing through your wonderful book.
The same to you. I love your show. Be happy to come back anytime.
Lee, this is one of the great honors of my long career, just to be in the same earth with you.
I'm sure.
We're just so blinded. We have so many blinders on because our society doesn't want us to know things. And so it takes shows like your show, and
it is clearly designed to eradicate.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Jill, how are you? Julian, thanks for joining me. Honor to have you, brother.
Consumerism is a theory that people should behave this way to help each other. It's not.
Mr. George Galloway, thank you so much for joining me in these dark times.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lee, for having me on. Keep fighting. Ha.